Welcome back into the Dead Arm Sports Podcast. We're recording on Tuesday, coming at you on Thirsty Thursday. Hopefully, everyone's pounding beers just listening to our podcast. Not really.
Thirsty
Thursday. Oh, the old college days.
Boosh.
Good times were had by all. Speaking of college, Jill, we're going to kick it off with our QOTD today. And hard to believe, but we are over halfway through the college basketball season. Who is your mid-season March Madness favorite right now? Who you rolling with right now, or who's in a grouping maybe of teams that you like?
I mean, Purdue is the team that sticks out right now. I feel like Zach Edey has been that just massive, gigantic human being of a center on that team. It feels like forever. It's probably only been a couple of years. I mean, maybe, I don't know. We've got a guy that transferred from Oregon State to Ohio State this year that's working on his 7th year of eligibility. So I guess eligibility is just out the window, but it feels like Zach Edey's been there for like 6 years. Maybe it's just because he's such a massive human being. I just, but we see this every year with Purdue. Like, they're always up there in the beginning of the year, and they seem to crumble when it comes March Madness time. So, I mean, I like them to probably make the Elite Eight at this point. I don't know if I can trust them to make the Final Four, even though they have the team to do it. And Edey could very well end up being the player, the Naismith Player of the Year. Kansas is right up there. Obviously, they're coming off a title, so Kansas has to be there. And then a little bit of a dark horse. Well, maybe not a dark horse, but because they've had some nice seasons lately. But Houston right now is rolling. So I got to give it up to them, to those probably the top 3 squads in the nation, at least that I've watched so far. Tennessee looked really good, and the second that I actually watched them and turned them on, they lose
to Kentucky
on national TV to Kentucky, Kentucky's been terrible this year. Yep. I never understand why Kentucky always get these preseason rankings like way too high, like up in the top 10. And then they just are terrible to start off the season. But by the end of the year, it's like, oh God, is Kentucky like this? Like, can Kentucky make a run? And then sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But I don't know. I'd say probably, Kansas, Houston, Purdue. It seems like they're really the ones that are running college basketball at the moment. Tennessee's a talented team. I'm very impressed with Wisconsin so far, but I can't put them up in the upper echelon yet.
No, they've been without Tyler Wall right now. He's back tonight, recording on Tuesday, but they just have not looked like the same team either, losing a few games here down the stretch. I think Kansas is my favorite right now. Very boring considering they are the defending champions, but Jalen Wilson's averaging 20 points a game, and Frosh Grady Dick averaging another 15 points too. So
grade my dick.
But no, you can't count out Bill Self.
This is going to be labeled as explicit for sure after that. Yes, oh boy.
Sure. Hot start. But no, I like the Purdue call out too. And Houston's been awesome, and we'll see if that can continue into the tournament, what that looks like down the stretch. And team 2 that can't count out Timber. Gonzaga not off to a start that they've had the last couple of seasons, but only 3 losses on the season so far against Texas, Purdue, and Baylor. So all 3 teams that are ranked in the top 15 right now. So not terrible losses, and haven't lost since the beginning of December. So we'll see. They're not their strongest team that they've had the last couple of years, but they've got the experience at least.
I mean, they don't have the one and done over the last 2 years like they had, 2 years ago with Jalen Suggs, this past season with that lanky, gawky, awkward number 3 overall pick. You know what I mean? You know who I'm talking about, the skeleton. So Skeletor, good enough. He's also missing he's going to miss this entire season with a foot injury. Can't be a shock, like from somebody that tall that weighs like less than I do. So that's 7'2" and weighs probably 110 pounds. So I guess, but this might be exactly what Gonzaga needs. Like, this is kind of the opposite of what they do. Normally it's like they run through the regular season, they go 33-0. They have one weird loss to like a San Diego State or San Jose State or something, and go into the tournament with as the number 1 overall seed and blow it. Maybe I think that these mid-season mishaps and losses that could end up strengthening that team overall. I mean, they had to try something different and give themselves some legitimate competition. And I guess I'm all for Mark Few actually deciding to not try to run the table again against crap. So
Right.
Good for them. Good for them for adjusting and trying something new.
Yep. Yeah, I have wins over Kentucky, Michigan State, so they played a lot of tougher competition than they usually do at the beginning of the season. Which
I was a little surprised when I saw that
tournament.
Michigan State was unranked when the Badgers faced them, and they took care of business against Wisconsin the other what was that, maybe last weekend. And I just feel like you can never count out Sparty, at least when it comes to basketball, and Izzo, and they're always such just like they could destroy you, or they could just lay an egg. So it's such a weird dynamic with that Michigan State team.
We can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. We're also on YouTube, Dead Arm Sports. Subscribe, click the bell there. That way you know when our live episodes drop. Otherwise, you can watch the replay the next day. We monitor that chat, though, if you are watching the live episodes. That way you can ask us any questions. Otherwise, you can hit us up at Dead Arm Sports, at DasJel, that's at DASJEL, at DasJPEC, that's at DASJPEC. Send us in any questions there. Make sure you go to your favorite listening platform that you hit up for podcasts, subscribe there, write us a review, screenshot that review, and we will get you some swag. Gonna kick it off. Haven't done a news little segment in a while here, Gel, but some coaching news did come down over the weekend, so wanted to get you caught up on that, give away some of our takeaways as well.
Give it away now.
Sean Payton has been talking to everybody and anybody here lately. Interviewed with Houston yesterday. Again, we're recording on Tuesday. And
not the college basketball team we were talking about.
College basketball team, the foosball team. And has interviews set up with just about everyone else. Denver's on the docket. Arizona's called about it. Carolina's called about it. I mean, you name it. They're knocking at his door, which they should. I mean, he's by far the best coaching candidate out there, at least tenured ones. That's not a first-time coach. And yeah, I mean, any early favorites in your mind? Anything you're looking at?
Right off the bat, I have to give myself, and I might get hurt, giving myself this pat on the back, but I kind of knew that the Chargers weren't going to be the destination. It's been pretty much confirmed that Brandon Staley wasn't coming, or wasn't going to get or is not getting canned, and is going to return as the head coach. It seemed like the Sean Payton thing was, that was the favorite for where he was going to land, was the Chargers, and it seems so obvious that that's where he wanted to go. He lives in LA. They've got a stud quarterback, but the Chargers, they're going to Charger. They're going to be the same. That ownership group is the same ownership group that it's been for a long time. And of course, they're not going to pony up to pay for Sean Payton and trade a 1 for him. So I can't be shocked by this. In terms of current favorites now, I've got this sneaky suspicion that he wasn't just wasting his time with the Texans. I know that feels like the most undesirable job out there, but why is he interviewing with them then? I've just like, there's just something that is like eating at me that thinks he wants to say, okay, give me Bryce Young and give me full control of personnel calls and pay me 18 million a year and I'll do it all. And this is my franchise. And he wants to build something from scratch, just like he did with the Saints. I mean, the Saints were known as the Aints before he came on. I got a very, very sneaky suspicion that he might do it again. I mean, he's a Southern dude. He's a West Coast Southern dude. I don't see him going up to the Northeast. I don't know if, maybe he would like something in the Southeast. He's lived obviously in New Orleans, but he's got ties to New Orleans, which New Orleans is just outside of Texas. I'm sure he's got ties with people in Texas. I think that the Texans are somehow, they may end up landing Sean Payton, which is crazy. But maybe they finally get something right and they overpay for somebody that they think can completely turn around that franchise. And on top of that, a lot of that management squad, both the GM and the president of operations, came from New England, where Bill Belichick was making all the calls. And you saw the success that they had, where Belichick, he didn't necessarily have to build it from scratch. I mean, he started that franchise off with Drew Bledsoe on the roster, but then they moved into Brady and he built up that defense. He built up that line, the lines on both sides of the ball, and he developed a philosophy that was completely lacking in New England. That's also completely lacking in Houston. There is no identity in Houston. I think Sean Payton has an opportunity to build this team from scratch and create an identity for the Texans. And maybe Payton wants to look at himself like the next Bill Parcells, like the next Bill Belichick. He's on a tier. He's a tier below them right now because he only has that one Super Bowl. But if he's able to resurrect a franchise that's as broken as the Texans, grab himself Bryce Young, build up a philosophy, build up a team, build up a culture, he could turn into a long living legend when you're talking about NFL head coaches. So I just got this sneaky suspicion that there's a reason why the Texans were his first interview.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. And they're the most stripped down of all of the franchises right now that are available for a head coach to come into. They've got great draft capital, like you had mentioned. They can pretty much pick whatever quarterback they want. And if they think someone might take who they want, they could always swap up to number one. Wouldn't take a whole heck of a lot to get up one spot. But ultimately, yeah. I mean, if he could come in and turn that franchise around, I think that would do wonders for his career. And like you had said, the personnel that are there from New England that knew how to get stuff done with Bill Belichick. And you just look at the other franchises too. I mean, you've got question marks at the quarterback position in almost all of those. I mean, Denver, what Russell Wilson is just
what
a
do you
monster.
do with that?
What do you do there? Kyler, we'll get into Kyler here in a second and some comments that his new GM made, and then Carolina and Indy, both, you have no idea what the quarterback's going to be there. They're both drafting in the top 10, but not a spot to get that guaranteed franchise quarterback that you can build the roster around. So why not go to Houston? I mean, they've got a lot of cap space. They don't really have any big contracts in the books there. So you're going to be able to kind of mold that roster into what you want. You've got some nice young pieces to work with there, and then just hit that draft, which they've obviously got a lot of draft capital from the Browns.
A ton of capital, man.
So that, yeah, I mean,
and it's not like he's, an old guy, trying to grab himself one more ring before he's out.
Yeah.
He's young. He's got a ton of energy. Like he's got enough time to build up a team again, just like he did in New Orleans. Yep. The other thing too, Carolina's open, but the Saints still own the rights to him. They're not trading him. They're not trading Sean Payton in division.
Yeah.
Like, unless the Panthers just blew them away with a trade offer. But it's going to take a trade to be able to get Sean Payton.
Yep. And it's been rumored that the Saints want a first round pick, and Houston's got a surplus of them that maybe you kick the Browns over from this year, or you can talk them into maybe down the road taking a first round pick of Houston's or Cleveland's or one of those. So, yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. He's going to be on the move. Someone's going to hire him and work out a trade with the Saints, and we'll see.
It's been, he said this week on, I believe it was on Monday, in an interview with Colin Cowherd, that Mickey Loomis, the GM, wants at least a mid to late first round pick for him. Texans have the number 12 pick. That's more than enough to get it done, especially given that the Saints are desperate for first round picks. They don't have one this year. So that number 12 pick looks juicier and juicier. I mean, I think that would be enough to get it done.
Yep. It's the Sean hour apparently right now, because we're going to talk a little Sean McVay coming back to the Rams. So we talked about him on the podcast last week, and we both were like, I think this is going to be it. And he comes out this weekend. He must have listened to the podcast and wanted to set the record straight. But no, he's coming back, and he had some Aaron Donald news too. It said former defensive lineman on his
That's the worst.
Instagram, and then changed it to former Pittsburgh Panthers defensive lineman. But yeah, it was kind of surprising to me. But we also had the news over the weekend come out that Matt Stafford said he was coming back, and confirmed that they picked up his option. So I think once they did that, you could kind of see that, okay, I bet you McVay's coming back. Otherwise, who knows?
What would be the point?
Yeah. So surprising, but there's still a little life in that team. Yes, you're going to have to hit in the draft, which again, they don't have first round pick, and maybe some free agents coming in to get some life into that team, but the bones are still there. You just have to get through San Francisco. The Cardinals are going to be tearing down their roster. Seahawks, beatable, but going to be tough, especially a road win there. So the division still is one that you could compete for, but I was just kind of surprised. This seemed to be the right time after his first losing season in LA, but maybe that's what brought him back, is that he didn't want to go out there on a bad note like that and wanted to show that, no, that was just kind of a fluke year. I'm going to get them back to the playoffs, and then we'll talk TV deals after that.
I mean, it would have been a pretty shitty move for him to just walk away. Like, knowing that, yes, he won that Super Bowl, but to just walk away while this team is in complete shambles. I don't know. I almost feel like he would have felt guilty doing that. That's because that would have been pretty crappy. But I think that, yeah, once Stafford's coming back, maybe, and hell, we'll probably revisit this at the end of next year if the Rams suffer again, and Stafford has, if Stafford has more injuries next year, I mean, he might as well retire. And at that point, if you're McVay, I don't want to develop a quarterback. I already tried that with Goff and I hated him. So, like, I think that, I got a feeling that we're going to be revisiting this 12 months from now, if not less than that. But I'm happy he's coming back, because he just makes things better to watch, I guess. I don't know. I just like having him in the league. Just knowing all his coaching tree for somebody under 40 is already insane. Like, most of your guys that have awesome coaching trees are guys like Andy Reid, who are in their 60s, and like Mike Holmgren before he retired. Like, McVay already has an amazing coaching tree, and he's not even 40. Yeah. I think it's good for the league to have him in. I think it just makes the NFL better when he's on the sidelines.
Yep. Going over to their division rival, Arizona Cardinals. Today on Tuesday, their GM came out with some interesting words. I'll read the whole quote here, Gel, from Monty Ossenfort. Then we can dive into kind of the last two sentences here, and I'll point those out when I get there. But just said, I'm excited to embark on this next stage of Cardinals football. We're going to focus on a completely unified message across the general manager, head coach, and ownership to what exactly we want to be as a football organization. We're going to institute a thorough and exhaustive scouting process. We're going to turn over every stone to find the right players for this team. We're not just collecting talent. We're going to build a team. We're going to look for the right type of players. Ego will not be tolerated in this organization. We're going to look for focused, driven, and people that are willing to put the team first at every step of the way. Kyler, did you hear that?
Not only Kyler, but I got to throw D-Hop in there. I got to throw in just like this random collection of talent of like JJ Watt in there. Obviously, Watt's gone now, and there's already been talks about D-Hop being out.
Yeah, I think he's good as gone.
But obviously, that was a direct message towards Kyler Murray. Like, and I don't know how you could deal with this guy, the way that he was acting this over this past year, including the off season, including how he didn't even try to perform in the playoffs without his contract. I couldn't handle it. If I was management, if I was his head coach, if I was in any sort of leadership position, just because you make the most amount of money on this team between staff and all the players doesn't mean that gives you a right to be as just what's the right word? I guess just like, I don't like, doesn't even seem like he gives a shit. I really don't know if he gives a shit. And he thinks obviously the word that this new GM brought up was the word ego. He didn't use that word on accident. He used the word ego on purpose. And that's been kind of Kyler's whole issue, is this guy's got too big of an ego for the very little amount that he's actually done. I mean, Joe Burrow's got an ego. He's got a pretty loud mouth in terms of confidence. And, he's saying, hey, our Super Bowl window is open as long as I'm here. He said that, but he can say that. He can say that because he made a Super Bowl in his second year coming off an ACL injury. Kyler has accomplished nothing. Kyler was a number one pick. Joe Burrow was a number one pick. They were both drafted to incompetent organizations. Joe Burrow gets to talk shit. He gets to have an ego. Kyler has not accomplished shit. The only thing Kyler has done in his career is lose in the wild card round and look like ass. He does not deserve to have an ego. So that was a pretty fucking loud message by that GM, this incoming GM, saying this is not going to be tolerated. And if you think it will be, like, I guess, like, I don't know, you're SOL. It's a goofy situation where Kyler just obviously got that big contract, but he's going to have guys, I think, breathing down his neck now, making sure, like, holding him accountable finally, which Cliff Kingsbury and that staff, including the general manager, clearly never did. They tried to hold him accountable by telling him, we need you to be studying at least, what was it? Like 8 hours outside of or it was either 4 or 8 hours outside of the locker room.
Yeah.
His homework clause. And the second that was made public, they just wiped it out of the contract. That's the opposite of trying to hold somebody accountable. You don't need that clause to hold somebody accountable. You need to just tell them this is what I need and actually follow through with it. So hopefully this new GM, and I'm sure he got this, I'm sure that the owner told him, like, I'm done with Kyler's BS. You better address this right away. Because the owner's obviously pissed too that he just gave $160 million guaranteed to Kyler Murray, who doesn't seem to hold himself accountable. So clearly somebody has to. I hope the GM actually does, because he's too talented to be performing as poorly as he is.
His former coach, Cliff Kingsbury, well, Bangkok got him. He took a one-way trip to Thailand, and teams had reached out to him and essentially said, nope, I'm not dealing with this right now. I'm not focused on it. Going to take some time off from coaching, which I don't blame him, because you know why? The Cardinals are still paying him because they fired him. So why would you take another coaching job when you're making free cash?
This is kind of what I thought was going to happen with Matt Rule. Not saying that I thought he was going to go to Thailand, but I kind of thought Matt Rule would take some time off himself, given that he's got, like, I think still like 60 million maybe that the Panthers owe him, or 40 million that the Panthers still owe him. So good for Cliff, man. You got to, I mean, just Google his relationship situation. I'm not going to comment on it, but tells you all you need to know. And like, so hell, get out of here, go to Thailand and have a goddamn good time. He had to deal with Kyler for the last however many years. I'd want some time off too. And think about the other options that are out there. Being offensive coordinator under Bill Belichick? No, I'd rather hang out in Thailand while I'm still collecting checks. So good for Cliff, man. Good for Cliff.
Yep. All right.
Really quick, speaking of the Patriots, they're actually going to hire an offensive coordinator, it looks like.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that would actually be, a smart decision? Good for Bill Belichick. Instead of relying on Matt Patricia, a fired defensive coach, to be the play caller. Amazing.
Super Duper Divisional Round is here, and we are here to preview the games along with our picks against the spread as well. First up on Saturday, Jaguars at Chiefs. Chiefs with the week off. That's kind of what I'm looking for with this one. Kansas City was looking pretty solid going into the playoffs, but we've seen that bye week sometimes mess with teams and they come out a little rusty. And Jaguars coming off of a huge emotional victory at home last week. Is there going to be a letdown there from them? I don't know. This one, to me, seems like it could almost be like a dud of a game just with those two teams. Jaguars coming off of that big victory, and then the Chiefs being maybe a little bit rusty. We'll see if the Chiefs can get that running game going. Jerick McKinnon's been an absolute beast the last little bit, and obviously Travis Kelce, integral part of that offense. But what do you see in this one, Jell? Are you kind of on the same page with me, or do you think complete opposite?
I see the emotion. I just see a massive emotional letdown from the Jags here. I think that I'm going to compare the Jags right now to TCU, where TCU came off that massive win against Michigan, and then they had to face the gauntlet of Georgia. Kansas City is the gauntlet of the NFL right now. I mean, at least the way they've closed out this season, I see a pretty massive emotional letdown from the Jags. That second half of against the Chargers, that's peak Jags for this season. I don't see how they can. I love the idea of them riding that emotional wave, but I think they hit the peak of that wave and it's just going to fall down from here. Right now, the Kansas City Chiefs go in as 8.5-point favorites, and I'm going to take the Chiefs here against the spread, because I can't see the Jags coming out on fire for a full 4 quarters after what just, this monumental accomplishment from last weekend against LA. So I'm going to go KC and take the 8.5.
That's where I sit with this one too. I think the Chiefs are going to be too much, especially at Arrowhead in front of that home crowd. It's going to be too much for Trevor Lawrence. I think making his first road start in this one. I think they're going to be competitive in that first half. And I think we're going to be looking at a similar situation that we did last week with the first game in that Seahawks 49ers, where we expected the Seahawks or the San Francisco 49ers with the big spread to end up winning that one handedly. And it was Seahawks up at half. And it wouldn't surprise me if Jacksonville came out a little fired up and scored a few points, took the lead, but I just think ultimately the Chiefs are going to be too much for them in the second half. Patrick Mahomes, this ain't his first rodeo, and he's going to be the difference maker in this one and show Trevor Lawrence that, hey, this is still my conference, baby.
It would not shock me one bit if Jacksonville wins that opening kick or wins the toss, takes the opening kickoff, they score, they go up 7-0. I just don't know how they could sustain that for a full 4 quarters against Mahomes. I mean, Mahomes is going to burn that. I just feel like Mahomes is going to end up burning that defense too many times where eventually the Jags get deflated. Trayvon Walker, just a little side note here. What has he done? What has he done this season? He was like almost non-existent against the Patriots outside of just seeing him on replays, not even close to the ball. Like, I feel like the Jags kind of ended up screwing that pick up, and Aiden Hutchinson should have, if Aiden Hutchinson was there, I don't know. I feel like the Jags screwed that pick up. I haven't seen Trayvon Walker involved in enough plays for me to say, hey, good first overall pick. Feel like they screwed that up, but yeah, I don't know. I just, like I said, feel like there's just an emotional letdown here.
Yep. Moving on to the Giants at Eagles. Eagles right now recording on Tuesday, 7-point favorites at home. They are the NFC 1 seed and stumbled into the playoffs mostly due to Jalen Hurts getting hurt in that Bears game and just kind of trying to find his form that week 18. And I'm curious to see what the health is of Jalen Hurts. Should be pretty much recovered from that injury, had a week off to rest, but I like the Giants in this one. I'm siding with the Giants in the spread. I liked what I saw out of them last week in Minnesota, and they almost went in and beat the Eagles week 18 of the season with their backups. And I just think that they're going to be riding high after this last week. They'll be able to get some momentum. And one thing we know about the Eagles in the city of Philadelphia, if they start struggling at any point, it doesn't matter. Those fans are going to let them have it, and they might be up against it with that home crowd too if they come out and start off a little slow on offense. So I don't know. I see the Giants not only I think they're going to win this game.
You got the Giants out right here.
I do. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to take them obviously for a pick 'em against the spread here, but it would not surprise me if somehow they sneak into that NFC championship game.
And if they make the NFC championship game, they're going to make the Super Bowl. That's just what happens with these wild card Giants teams. These 6 Giants teams every time. Yeah. I mean, I'm going Philly here. I think that, Jalen coming back, I think that's going to be a massive boost for Philly. And Philly is actually good on defense, where the Vikings are awful. There is zero chance that Daniel Jones goes for another 70 yards on the ground. I don't see how that's possible. The Vikings defense is poor. It's not good. I haven't seen anything out of I don't trust Daniel Jones. That's really what it comes down to, where I do put a lot of trust in Jalen Hurts. And I think with him coming back, look, yes, they did hang in there with their backups in week 17, but Philly was still playing there with Gardner Minshew and stuff. And I think Jalen Hurts it's pretty clear he makes a massive difference on this team. Really, this offense relies on the running game, and Jalen Hurts is the biggest reason why that running game is awesome as it is. With Gardner Minshew, you don't have the threat of the quarterback run. So with Jalen coming back, I think they're going to be able to maybe not run all over the Giants, but enough to cover the 7-point spread. I would love if it was 6.5 to take Philly, but I'll still ride with them at 7. I see a 10-point win here from Philly. If not, a 31-20 type of a game. That's kind of what I see. They're getting Lane Johnson back. One of the best right tackles, probably the best right tackle in the league. He's coming back. Yes, he's coming off an injury, but he's going to be all shot up with whatever meds it takes for him to be at least as close to full strength as possible. I think Philly rolls.
Moving on to the Sunday slate of games, we are going to get a matchup that unfortunately we did not get to see with Damar Hamlin's devastating injury week 17 on that Monday night game, but do have a matchup in Buffalo between those two teams, Bengals at Bills. Right now on Tuesday, Bills are 5-point favorites at home. This one, I think, could be the matchup of the week. I think both of these teams end up bouncing back in this one and put up a good fight. Curious though, both teams, like I said, they're rolling going into that Monday night matchup, and that was going to be one of the games of the season. And then you saw both of these offenses come out last week and struggle to get consistent drives, consistently put up points. So it'll be interesting to see what we get out of this one. Bengals going to be tough going to Buffalo on the road, but if anyone can do it and pull off an upset, it's going to be Joe Burrow. But ultimately, I think the Bills end up winning this game, but I am going to go inside with the Bengals here. I think it's closer than a 5-point game, but I think ultimately Buffalo does find a way to win this game. And I think it's going to be mostly because they're going to watch that game on Saturday. Kansas City's going to win, and the Bills, they want their revenge after last week. You got the new playoff rules this year, and it would be a treat to get that rematch that everyone wants in the playoffs. And that game would be in the
this is the
Mercedes
game that
Benz
would be in
Falcons, Mercedes Benz. So yeah, what do you see from this one, Joe?
I just really don't like what I've seen out of Josh Allen lately and his turnovers. I think that could end up being the difference in this game. I'm going to take the Bengals straight up. I have not been impressed by Buffalo in a long time, honestly. And it's a team that should be, they're star-studded. I mean, you've got Josh Allen, one of the top, count them however, count them on your hand. Top 5 quarterback. Devin Singletary, James Cook, good running backs. Dawson Knox has really kind of taken off. It seems like he's taken a few targets away from Stephon Diggs. And then you got Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs out wide. Not Cole Beasley. Maybe no. Beasley's on the. Is it Beasley?
Yeah, he's back.
Yeah, so it is Beasley. Yeah, so he's back and he made an impact in this last game. So this team is too good to be barely beating a 7th round 3rd string quarterback. I got so many question marks on this Bills team, and I think it comes down to Josh Allen he might throw 2 picks and lose a fumble. And that's going to be enough for Cincinnati to win this game. I trust Burrow way more than I trust Josh Allen. I trust Jamar Chase more than I trust Stephon Diggs, which is, I mean, at this point, not crazy to say that that Jamar Chase is a better receiver. So I don't know, man. Joe Burrow's got that swag. I think that they go into Buffalo and take care of business here. I really do. I'm taking Cincinnati straight up. I'll take the points, but I'm also taking them straight up to win this game.
All right. Last
Did you
match,
take Cincy? Did you take?
I did take
Cincy
Cincy, but I
with the
think
points?
Buffalo's
Okay.
going to win. Correct. Yep. Last game up, Cowboys at 49ers. And right now, 49ers 3.5-point favorites. And to me, it's all about which Purdy shows up in this one. Is it first half Brock Purdy? Is it second half Brock Purdy? If first half Brock Purdy shows up, they're going to have a tough time against this Cowboys defense that looked like they were back against Tampa Bay this last week, and they're going to be putting pressure on him. Or is it the one that showed up in the second half and was hitting receivers, counting for 3 touchdowns? And they're going to need him to be that second half Brock Purdy the entire game if they want to come away with the victory here. So what do you got in this one, Joe? I went first the last one. I'll give you the stage for our fourth and final matchup.
Light me up, baby. I'm taking San Francisco with the points. And I think that one thing that might be overlooked right now, Dallas played on the Monday night game. San Fran played on the Saturday afternoon game.
That's a good point.
They basically get 2.5 extra days of rest and prep, where the Cowboys are going to be like, they're going to be focusing on like making sure they're getting healthy. And I'm sure that the secondary staff has plans for, hey, how would we attack the Niners versus how would we attack the Bucks? But that head coaching staff of, McCarthy and the top guys, they've been focused since last night. Again, we're recording live on a Tuesday. They've been focused last night on just how do we get past the Bucks. So Kyle Shanahan, his DeMeco Ryans, who's one of the top head coaching candidates coming out or going into next season. You got one of the top head coaching candidates and one of the best head coaches in the league that get an extra 2.5 days of prep. I think that that's a massive factor here. 3.5 points. Also, when you look at Dallas, what have they really accomplished lately? I mean, they beat a below 500 team in the Bucks. They just got smoked by the Commanders. They got smoked by the Jags a few weeks ago. Yes, Dak looked good. He looked really good. That's the best showing that I saw out of the Cowboys in a long time against the Bucks. But again, the Bucks were 8-9. The Bucks finished that season 8-10. They weren't good. The Bucks aren't good. So I don't even know what to take out of Washington. For hell's sake, Washington finished with a better record than Tampa. So
yeah,
I don't know what to take out of the Cowboys that win against the Bucks. Yes, it's against Brady, but Brady is a statue back there. Brock Purdy, if anything, or if we saw anything from this past Monday night game, Dallas was able to get to the statue of Tom Brady. Brock Purdy's got pretty freaking Purdy, I should say. Purdy legit mobility. He was out there, he was rolling out really nicely. There was one play where he ran and was basically running up the sideline, or he ran to the sideline and then ran up the sideline a couple of yards and then threw a freaking dime. This guy can throw on the run. He's quick. He's really agile. The opposite of Tom Brady. I mean, obviously I'm not saying that he can outrun Micah Parsons, but he's not Tom Brady out there. And that was a big factor in that Dallas-Tampa game, was Brady's inability to move at all. So I think 3.5 points, honestly, is kind of a joke. I think that this should be closer to 6.5. I feel like this is an easy W. Of course, the second I say, hey, I'm getting an easy win in gambling, it never comes to fruition. But 3.5 doesn't feel like a good number at all. I mean, especially if Brett Maher is going to come out here and miss 4 extra points. So that's the spread right there, is his missed 4 extra points. So I'm riding San Fran hard here with the -3.5. I think that this is an easy W, honestly.
See, I love the 3.5 points here, and I think this is going to be a closer game. I think Dallas is going to have a lot of confidence in their offense from this last week and be able to put up some points. And what I see from this one is I see Dak getting a late drive with either a tying or go ahead touchdown. Brock Purdy comes out, leads him down the field for my man, Robbie Gould, kicked the game-winning field goal. So I am going Cowboys, but 49ers to win.
Yeah. I mean, I've become a Robbie Gould fan now that he's not a Bear. I've
even after he knocked the Packers out of the playoffs last year?
Dude, the Packers suck. I don't even give a shit about that. Packers suck. They didn't deserve to win that game.
Love it. All right. Speaking of sucking, Drew Lock's playoff edition.
Strong. Yeah, it got me a solid 0.0 in my final regular season week.
All right. So each week, what we have been doing for the playoffs, Jill and I are picking a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, just as we did during the regular season, but fresh slate. And we're going to do that again for the playoffs. Once you use a guy, cannot use them again. Can't use the same guy as your opponent for the weekend. Obviously, if a team gets eliminated, you cannot use those players. So you're kind of strategizing for saving guys that you think might advance a little bit further on, so you're not having to pick backups. Last week did get the victory 42.82 to 38.15 on the back of Daniel Jones once again leading the charge in Minnesota. But, love it.
He didn't okay. Let's not bury the lead here in the fact that his teammate Saquon, my first overall pick, ended up as the high point scorer last week for us.
Yeah. How did that turn out for you?
The other thing too, I would have ended up winning this week, or I still would have ended up losing. But if Trevor Lawrence didn't throw 4 freaking interceptions in the first half,
gotta play better.
George Kittle, thanks for stinking up the joint.
All right, Jill, who you got going with? You have the first pick.
Okay, I'm not going to screw this up. I'm going Jamar Chase, number 1 overall. Think that I got to believe that him against those Buffalo corners, he's going to have a field day. So give me some Jamar Chase action.
Sounds good. Screw it. I'm going to ruin your stack and take Joe Burrow.
You bastard. Okay.
I didn't even have him written down, but I'm going to do that to screw you.
You just like ruining lives.
Playing defense.
Oh, lovely. Okay. Well, in that case, let me lock in my tight end. I was just pimping out here Dawson Knox. I think that he's going to have a nice day against Cincinnati. I really think this Bengals Bills game, we're going to be looking at points. We're going to be looking at turnovers, and we're going to be looking at points. So give me Dawson Knox. He's been on he's been looking real nice lately.
I like it. Let's see. Running back, I'm going to pivot again here, and I'm going to go with Jerick McKinnon. Jerick McKinnon's been on an unreal streak lately and seems to be Patrick Mahomes' favorite running back in that backfield. I know that we've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire came off of IR, but I don't give a shit. Jerick McKinnon has looked solid the last few weeks and going to keep that touchdown streak going, in a positive game script for him too, with them being a favorite at home. I like McKinnon.
Yeah, McKinnon was one of the two that I was considering here, but I might as well stick with the position while we're here. And unfortunately, I think this is going to be the last time that I'm going to have an opportunity to ride one of my favorite running backs of the year in Travis Etienne. So I gotta go Etienne here. I got it's a nice running back crop, honestly, that's out there right now. I mean, seriously, look at the teams that are out there right now. Etienne, I mean, sure, go Jerick McKinnon. Like, Etienne, McKinnon, Saquon, Eagles running game as a whole, Bengals with Mixon, Bills, you got to include Josh Allen in there, Cowboys with a two-headed monster plus Dak, Niners with CMC and Elijah Mitchell. You can't just, like, I know that this is a passing league now, and that's what it's turned into, but all 8 of these teams have really legit running games, whether, and of course, like I mentioned, with Josh Allen and with Jalen Hurts, those include the quarterbacks, but like, you can't just ignore the running game here, even though it's become a passing league. I'm not saying, pull what the Dolphins did, taking Ronnie Brown number 2 overall back in the day, or what the Bucks did, taking Cadillac Williams in the same draft at number 4 overall. I'm not saying do that, like, where you need to take a running back that high, but to any of these GMs out here, if you ignore the running game, you're not going to make it past the wild card round. We saw the Bucks just eliminate the running game. What have the Vikings done on the ground all season? I mean, Dalvin Cook, this was Dalvin Cook's worst year of his career. The Dolphins, they lost. They never had a running game. The Chargers, they never even tried to run the ball all season. And the Seahawks lost not because of their running game. I mean, they actually did embrace it, but they were just outmanned. So 5 of the 6 teams that lost, and Ravens, they were down to their backup quarterback, but so at least 4 of the 6 teams that lost in the wild card round, they never embraced the running game. And you go to the super duper divisional round, all 8 of these squads have a legit running game. So you can't abandon it, man. As sexy as it is to just throw the ball around the entire time, all game long, you see who's in the divisional round. They all got a running game.
Yep. I've already taken my running back, so I will go over to wide receiver here, and I'm going to take who you did last week. Christian Kirk has been Trevor Lawrence's favorite target, and I think he's going to have a pretty big day in this one just because of the game script with this
He's
one.
Been hot, man.
I think they're going to have to throw the ball, and they're going to be down trying to catch up, and I think Christian Kirk will have a nice day because of that. So I'm going to roll with him, and looks like your last pick's a quarterback, Gel. Who are you going with since I stole Burrow from you?
I wrote down Dak. Do you want to go first? I don't know if I want Dak.
Daniel Jones is out there.
I know, but I don't think he's going to run the ball at all. Screw this. Brock Purdy. It's the Purdy party. Let's go, baby. Hey, he threw for over 300 yards last weekend. I'm rocking it. I'm going. I'm on the Purdy train.
All right.
Purdy bus.
Well, we'll see. You have been notorious for derailing things, Gel. So we'll see what happens there. My tight end is the last spot.
Especially on a party bus.
Yes.
Derailing that's the name of the game.
Oh, my tight end. I'm glad that you did not take Dak Prescott because I'm going to take Dalton Schultz here. He's coming off of a 2-touchdown game, and he's one of Dak's favorite targets. I think Dak's going to have to be checking down in this one. I think Dalton Schultz is going to get quite a bit of targets against the San Francisco defense. So I like Dalton Schultz this week. And hey, if our predictions are both right and the 49ers run away with it, you can't use Dalton Schultz next week. So might as well use him this week.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm kind of scared. I don't know if I'm going to be able to use Brock Purdy next week. So
love it. All right, so you're on to our last segment, and that is golf. American Express is this week. Played over 3 different golf courses. So the PGA West Stadium course is the main attraction. That will be where the Sunday round is. Otherwise, they play at La Quinta Country Club, PGA West, Nicholas course. All of them are par 72 and over 7,000 yards. Stadium course is, I believe, around just over 7,000, and the other ones are around 7,100. So pretty comparable. PGA West Stadium course has the pretty cool peninsula hole as well, surrounded by the rocks. So usually every year you get to see some nice ricochets there. But Hudson Swafford, defending champion, and have a nice field for the kickoff of the West Coast swing here. Zach Johnson, Cameron Young, Will Zalatoris, Tony Finau, Scotty Scheffler, Patrick Cantlay, Xander Schauffele, Tom Kim, Sahith Theegala, Sam Burns, Sanjay M, John Rahm, and we'll get to see Ricky Fowler debut his new swing this year. So see what happens there. Who are some of the betting favorites, Joe?
Okay, well, first off, before we get there, are you buying into this new Ricky Fowler swing? I mean, we've been waiting for something out of him for a while. Do you think that this is something that can kind of get him back on track?
I think it could, because his swing has just gotten so inconsistent the last few years. He has not been relevant at all. We haven't seen him play in a Masters in quite some time because he hasn't qualified. He hasn't won on tour in forever, it seems like. I think the last one was the Waste Management Tournament pre-COVID. So
I was going to say that's a long time ago.
It's been a long time ago. So it couldn't hurt. He did dump one of the most notorious swing coaches and best swing coaches in the PGA, but sometimes you just need a fresh start with something, maybe some fresh eyes looking in to see maybe had a little bit of a swing mechanic issue. So I think it's going to take some time. We saw the same thing kind of happen with Jordan Spieth a few years back, and it took him a while to get going again with that. But you look at Jordan Spieth has kind of resurrected his career after a few years in there where wasn't the player he was back in the mid 2010s, where he was chasing down the career Grand Slam and the one season Grand Slam that we had. I think what was it, 2015. But I think it'll take some time, but ultimately I think in the long run, I mean, it can't be much worse for Ricky. I mean, his trajectory for the last couple of years was not a good one.
Yeah, I mean, some of the guys that just talking betting favorites right now, some of the guys that are ahead of him right now: Adam Hadwin, JT Poston, KH Lee, Andrew Putnam, like Cameron Davis, Taylor Montgomery. Like, these are guys that are fine players, but definitely have never touched the heights that Ricky Fowler touched. So, like, the talent is there with Fowler, so you just hope he can kind of get it back together. But talking about the favorites here instead of the guys that are a little further down, Rama Lama Ding Dong is the betting favorite right now at plus 625. Following him, Scotty Scheffler, Patrick Cantlay, Tony Finau. Obviously he ended last season on a really nice run. So glad to see him, glad to see Finau back up at the top there. Xander Schauffele, and then running out your top, I guess I'll say top six, is Will Zalatoris. So happy to see what Will Zalatoris is going to be able to do this year. There were so many times last year when he came so close, and and he did end up finishing off one of those tournaments, but hoping to see, excited to see what he can get done this season.
Sounds good. All right, Jell, you have a commanding lead right now. You are at minus 37. I am at minus 18. Who are you going with this week?
Just doing the math for you,
19.
Non-math magicians. That's a 19-stroke lead. I'm going to go with a little bit of a long shot here. Sahith Theegala here. He grew up in Orange County, California. This outing is taking place in La Quinta, California. So, we're opening up first part of the West Coast swing. 3-time All-American at Pepperdine University, which is in Los Angeles. So he knows how to play these California courses. The other thing too is, he gets into a little bit of trouble when, and we've seen this in past years, when he's not the most precise drive. He doesn't have the most precise drive in the world, but this course in particular has wider fairways than some other courses out there. So he's got a little bit of an extra space to play with. That's ideal for him. And I'm rooting for him to go get his first career win. Sahith Theegala.
I like it. You did not steal my pick, so I'm happy about that as well. And I need somebody to make the cut. And what better person to do that than somebody that so far this season, that from the wraparound from September, 8 for 8 on made cuts and 7 top 15 finishes. He is going off at plus 5,000 right now, and that is a rookie Taylor Montgomery. So Taylor Montgomery has been playing some pretty solid golf. I was so tempted to burn John Rahm here, Patrick Cantlay, but I think it's too early in the season right now to do that. So I'm going to go with somebody a little under the radar here, hopefully make a cut and have Sahith Theegala miss the cut, get some strokes back here. So I'm going to roll with old Taylor.
Well, and that's kind of I think it's probably the right call, given that, Cantlay played really well in this tournament last year, but if you look at this, who won this last year, it was Siwoo Kim. It's been a lot. It's a lot of no names that ended up at the top of the leaderboard there. So, and we're only three tournaments into the season. So I think that's a fine pick. I'd feel iffy about burning one of the top guys too this early in the season. We did see a nice showing out of John Rahm a couple weeks ago. But this is the time right now to take a little bit of a long shot. That's why I did it myself. So I'm into it.
All right. We'll be back to recap that tournament next week, along with the Super Duper Divisional Round of the playoffs. Can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Dead Arm Sports. Subscribe, click that bell. That way you know when our live episodes drop, typically on Tuesdays, sometimes Wednesdays. But if you click that bell, you will know for sure. Joe can be found at Joe. I can be found at JPEG. Hit us up on our socials there, or of course at Dead Arm Sports on all of our socials. Subscribe, rate the podcast, send us a screenshot of a review that you write. We will get you some swag. What are those platforms, Joe?
Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Pods. Again, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review. Send us a written review. Write a written review, send a screenshot of that written review to our socials at Dead Arm Sports on IG or Twitter. We'll hit you up with some free swag.
All right, that'll wrap it up. Hopefully everyone has a great weekend. Hopefully we have some good football games, duds like the Monday night games, but we will be back to break it down. And of course, with any other news that comes out in regards to coaching hires, player news, anything like that, we have you covered next week. Jill, close her out.
Trivia question to close us out.
Oh boy.
Guess how many of the top 100 TV shows in 2022 were NFL games?
Probably 20.
88, baby. Wow. 88. Okay. Jeez. 88 of the top 100. Insane. NFL dominates this country. I'm out.